It's that time again. It's the Berkey and the Badger Board Game Babble Show. It's going to get wild. It's going to get wacky. It might even get a little zany. We're going to talk about board games and the board game industry. And, you know, we might talk about anything else we want to talk about. Hey. It's the Berkey and the Badger Board Game Babble Show, episode number 81, Classic Games, with our special guest, Jamey Stegmaier, that will be joining us shortly. But Babbleites, welcome to the wonderful kingdom of Babblot. I'm your Honorable King Berkey and your host of this elegant podcast. And it is streamed live via YouTube and StreamYard and on Facebook. Everyone here is a game board enthusiast, including your humble king, and right down to the lowest of low grape pickers. So, speaking of grape pickers, here's my co-host, the jester, Sir Badger.
There you go. I squeezed some grapes there. Good evening, everybody. Hello, welcome to this live streaming podcast, where we have my good friend, the King Berkey over there, all up in the north end of Babblot, enjoying probably snow by now, whereas I am down in the south end of Babblot enjoying rain.
Wow.
We're going to be babbling about lots of things. This is episode 81. And we're going to start off by just talking about what's been going on in Babblot, basically what's been going on in our lives since our last show. And then we're going to do a roundup of rumors and things that make our king, him there, pointing to his screen on cue, what makes him go, what things have been making his brain go while he's been working hard. And then we're going to do our Hello Kabuki Kid section with a message on screen saying, "Hello Kabuki Kid, how are you doing?"
It says Barry seems to have a bit modulated bad internet. I was hearing a little bit of vibrato.
Okay, that's probably my singing voice. But hopefully that will clear up with time and this Vulcan blood that I'm drinking. It's green. And then we're going to have a quick wander down to our dungeon and interrogate our prisoner. Our prisoner has been accused of overusing crowdfunding services for good games, which is not allowed because Kickstarter is basically for bad games. That's why they don't go straight out to print. So anyway.
Surely you jest, sir.
That's why I am the jester.
You're the court jester making up silly things.
Okay. And then we're going to finish off with our Babble subject, talking to Jamey about classic games. What are classic games? What would we class as classic games? But before that, what have you been up to, sire?
Well,
royal throne room.
It has been crazy. We are almost done with all of our fulfillment at Game Toppers. Yay! We're just getting the last segment going out to Australia. So that's been if you've ever been involved in doing a fulfillment for a Kickstarter, you would understand just how many things that you are managing from day to day. It's an amazing amount of stuff, but super excited about that and really excited about the future. So in Minnesota, we are just going into fall the last few weeks, and the trees are changing colors and the temperatures are starting to get cold. Today, we're actually going to have a little bit of a heat spell at 67 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's pretty exciting. I've put up all my wood.
Presenter.
You say that again?
You make a great weather presenter.
Well, you can see that I have some growth going on here. And that is because winter is coming and the king must don his beard. So fear the beard. So we're preparing for winter, and we're getting all the wood is put up, and we just got in our last camping trip with our grandkids and my daughters, and super fun. So getting ready for the next greatest thing, and we're hoping this early winter we're going to be running another Game Topper Kickstarter with all kinds of crazy cool stuff. So there's never a dull moment.
No. Ooh, nasty. Whereas here, autumn fell, I think, last week. We had some lovely, gorgeous sunshine. And then 2 days afterwards, we've had nothing but rain. It's rained about 10 millimeters of rain every day. Luckily, we don't live in the very, very, very south end of France where they've had those inundations where the water just comes gushing through the Riviera. I sent a message to my friend Christophe Boulanger, because he lives down there, just to check if he was all right. And he said, yeah, everything's okay. Unfortunately, he cannot go surfing because the beaches are filled with all this driftwood, which has been washed out into the sea. But, yeah, anywho, what have I been up to? Well, I have the greatest respect for Dungeons & Dragons DMers. Basically, how they can... You know, we think that reading a rule book and remembering the rules to a board game is quite hard sometimes. But when you're like running an adventure on Dungeons and Dragons, to remember everything that's in a chapter that your heroes are currently in, every single kind of little detail. I mean, you've got the book as a reference, but quickly reading it and actually remembering that there's a conversation going on and this character's doing that, and then carrying on reading it, this character's motivation is this NPC is doing this, is unbelievable. So I tip my hat majorly to you DMers, even if you're playing not Dungeons and Dragons, because yeah, I've been sound designing and keeping busy in that way, reading lines and then translating those lines into sound, so the actual room that you walk into is the room that it should be. You know, there's a candle burning, flickering and flame. There's a little draft coming from the window, and you can hear the outside carts going past. And then there's the children upstairs that you can hear banging on the floor and playing. So all those kind of little elements I have to squeeze into sound, and then hopefully that helps augment those Dungeons and Dragons stories that you're telling. I mean, I just recently made the sound effect of someone falling off a slate tile roof, sliding down and landing on their bum, which was a nice combination of about 5 samples of tiles clashing together, someone sliding, and debris, and then the thump at the end.
If it would have been me falling on my bum, it would have been a very large sound.
It would have been +2, deafening to your ears, probably.
The royal bum has fallen.
Yeah. So that's what's been going on here, and there's a lot more of that going on. As I mean, this Dungeons and Dragons stuff is never ending. They want music, and I'm composing like big church organ sounds for Dracula, so to speak. Strad is Dracula, basically, in this story. But yes, Kabuki, I'll put up a video of me doing a Foley artist. I cheat. So there you go. That's what's been happening in Babblot. Shall we talk about what happened in our last show?
Yeah, let's talk about the poll that we put up.
Okay. We did a poll after talking with Jamey Stegmaier. And
from the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast.
Yes. Because we were talking about games we get rid of. And I couldn't think of a good poll to do. So I thought about, people that buy games, play games, and what they do with them. And so I set up this poll. What kind of board game enthusiast are you? We had 446 answers, which is incredible. And the first response is someone who plays games but never buys them. We have one voter. So there's someone out there who just profits off of everyone else buying games. Is it someone you know?
I can't read that.
Don Lyles, is it? Yeah,
go ahead and read those out.
Okay, I'll zoom. Okay, I asked if there was someone that plays games and buys one occasionally. 23 people voted for that. Someone who plays games and buys one regularly, 40 people voted for that. Someone who buys games, plays them, and then sells them or passes them on. There's not many people that do that, 14. Someone who buys games, plays them occasionally, and then sells and passes them on. 192 people said that they did that, which is the largest section. And, you know, I kind of fit into that category.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have somebody who buys games, plays them occasionally, and then sells and passes them on. And that was 192 people. Now, this is where it gets interested. Somebody who buys games, plays them, and keeps them all. 147 people, which is 33% of the voters.
I think that's kind of telling, because I tend to play them. I do keep a lot of them if I like them, but then I tend to give them away. I hardly sell any anymore. Years ago, I did a little bit of that, but I don't have time to mess with it. And
yeah, so you fall into the same category as me on that one just before with the 192 people.
But I think the thing is, people's collections now are growing, and sometimes limited space. It's like they're wanting to cull the collection to get some things out of there. And for me, I've got about 800 games now, and it's like, it's too much for me. In fact, I keep looking at them, and then I almost feel bad because they're crying out, play me. And I don't have any time for you to play with you, but I want you to play with me, you know?
Yeah, and again, that kind of falls into the category of what we were talking about firing games, replacing games with other games because they do the same thing. And then the final question I asked is the last proposal I made was someone who buys games and never plays them. 29 people out of the 446 people that answered this poll said that they buy games and never play them.
Well, I'm a little bit guilty of that because my shelf of shame is way bigger than it should be.
Yeah, but you know, that question is more kind of like someone that buys a game and then just stores it as, like, you know, they're cataloging them, like a certain Jason Levine, possibly, who never plays his games.
Yeah,
and he stores them. He wants to make a collection.
I heard he had like 8,000 games and actually has a whole climate-controlled storage facility that he rents. That's what I heard last. Maybe if I'm not remembering it right, but yeah, there's collectors who just love to collect games, and you know, more power to them. I got no judgment about it. That's awesome, but for me, I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed with all the games.
Yeah. Exactly. I know exactly what you feel. So yeah, that was the poll. But it was kind of interesting, but I think a lot of people fell into the same kind of boat that we're in. So that's either that people are all like-minded, or that's just like the general thing for people.
Kabuki said that he may have emptied the storage unit and brought everything home. I could be wrong. Yeah, I could be wrong too. Hey, Chris Goblet is in the castle, the charity board gamer. Welcome, Chris. Good to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Well, I think what we'll do before we go into our segment, Things That Make the King Go is announce our sponsor, Arcane Wonders. And Arcane Wonders has been a sponsor of the Berkey and Badger Board Game Babble show and Board Game Theater for many years. And just love Arcane Wonders. They're doing some crazy, awesome stuff. Their new Kickstarter is going to be launching soon. I think it's October 20th. Freedom 5, the Richard Launius game that this is a remake of Defenders of the Realm, but it's in cooperation with Greater Than Games, and they are doing the Sentinels of the Multiverse universe. All of the art is like crazy amazing. I've seen a few of the pieces and a whole bunch of miniatures that are actually going to be in this Kickstarter. knowing Richard Lanius, knowing his pedigree and how they were streamlining some things to fit into this universe and what I've seen so far, and the attention to detail from Arcane Wonders, it's going to be super exciting. So check out arcanewonders.com. But we do have a contest. The contest is really simple. It's for Smartphone Inc. And you notice right over here, Smartphone Inc. is the basic game, and then you have Update 1.1 Smartphone Inc. with this lovely gal on the front looking at her cell phone. You also have the hipster gentleman in the background with his iPad, and all you have to do to win a copy and enter, or to enter the contest for Smartphone Inc. is hashtag Smartphone Contest, and take a picture of yourself looking like one of these covers, holding up your cellular device or your iPad in a very professional way. And at the end of October, we are going to draw a winner to win a copy of both Smartphone Inc. and Smartphone Update 1.1. Super fun resource management technical game there where you get to sell cell phones all over the world, and there's an economic scale that allows these to go up and down. Super fun. Anyway, with that, we will move on to our segment, Things That Make Us Go, Hmm.
This is the Board Game News, where King Berkey reflects on some of the current things happening in the board game industry. Some may be good, some may be bad, but they're all things that made our king go, hmm.
I'm still bebopping to the music with my thing.
So is Rick Fortworth.
Hey, Rick! How are you, brother? Good to see you. Hear you. Know that you're there.
Read you. I read you like a telepath.
Woohoo!
So,
things that makes the king go, hmm.
What makes you stroke your beard, scratch your buttons, and generally muse on the world?
Bottoms.
Well,
I don't know. It's a little weird, but it made me go, and I thought, I'll throw it in there. It's a little bit not totally board game centric, but due to COVID, and not trying to be negative or anything, but due to COVID, we've seen a lot of disruption in a lot of things that we normally do as people. And I just recently saw the news that Regal Movie Theaters, who is the company owns AMC and a lot of other properties, are suspending movies for a time. Obviously, people are not going to indoor events. And they opened up, I think it was in June or whatever, but it's been very difficult for them to stay afloat, and so they're halting operations. But there's a lot of talk about how the impact of our movie industry is going to be, and so I thought that was kind of an interesting news report that I read. But it made me go, was I wonder, because of the COVID situation and because of a lot of these major IPs that have been delayed. I don't have a specific example, but there's big IP movies like Black Widow, for instance, is being pushed off. Other ones. How does that affect any of the maybe potential releases of board games that were IP related and or delayed? I don't have a real good example, but it kind of made me gum. What is the correlation?
Yeah, that is interesting. Because Kabuki has just popped something up.
Exactly.
Dune was pushed off nearly a year until October 2021. But the board game's still out there. That's the good news. The board game is still there. There's the original board game. But again, I don't know. It depends how much is tied in with the film, I think, with the board game. Because if it gives away plot points, they might be inclined to hold it back for the release of the film. Again, they might be inclined to hold it back for the release of the film, so it's like all the merch comes out at the same time, and so it's like a big splash. You can't escape from it. You know, it's on your milk carton, it's on the toilet paper as you're scratching your behind. It's everywhere. You know, oh, Star Wars again. Oh, Star Wars. Oh, Star Wars. I'm drinking Star Wars Reese's Pieces. Yeah.
Well, you know what Kabuki Kid mentioned there was actually what prompted the thought, because I thought Gale Force 9 has made the game Dune. Okay, but it's already been released, so I don't know how that will affect it. But you know, obviously the movie being delayed would have been a big boon to the game sales, I would assume, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wonder how many other things, you know, we have Marvel properties. Marvel Splendor is out right now. So Black Widow being put off, does that impact it? Maybe it's very minimal, you know, when I think about it, but it really did make me go, because overall what we're seeing is, generally speaking, I think board game publishers are doing pretty well and are still continuing to release product, but I could be wrong about there. There may be many people just kind of waiting off a little bit too.
Yeah. Again, with the Marvel Splendor, spoiler alert, Thanos is dead. Okay, Thanos is dead. But he's on the cover of a box. So I don't know how that works. It's, but again, yeah, I don't know if it applies too much to board games. I mean, I remember many times a film's plot would be revealed by mistake from an advertisement of say for example, the new Avengers film was coming out. There would be on Amazon a picture for the new for the film, the promo Lego for the film, and there'd be a character in there which you're not supposed to know of because it's a secret in the film. And so it's kind of like revealed that this character is going to be in the story, but I don't think it stopped, you know, the hold up of that Lego coming out, and I can't see how it's going to really affect board games. As I said, it's probably if they're going for a big punch release, or if it's got spoilers in the game which you don't want to see before the film. That's another question.
Yeah, it's very possible that you almost have to have a really close tie-in with the game manufacturer and the movie release. I know back in the day, Arcane Wonders did the Ruby game with Ruby Rooster Teeth, and they had a series of one of their seasons that kind of prompted that advertising and all of those things in conjunction with one another. Kabuki Kid says she's talking about the aliens that Gale Force 9 is constantly teasing and seemingly delaying all the new Aliens games. Can't wait to see how that plays out. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I didn't know about that. I just watched Aliens the other day and thought of my role-playing book I've got of it as well. So I'm like, I might play that. But yeah, it's an interesting point. But again, how much of the percentage of board games that are released in a year are actually IP related?
Mm-hmm.
Or how many of them just have the theme splashed on them, you know, Monopoly style, you know? Seriously, I can't see it's going to be a problem. I don't think that's going to hold up a board gaming company from releasing a game. Especially if it's a Kickstarter and they've promised it's going to come out. But again, a lot of the games, I think a vast majority of the IP games are of older IPs more than the newer IPs. So you're going to get more Star Wars and more The Thing. The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Than anything else.
Well, we're very close to going into our next segment. Has our guest arrived in the dungeon? Have the dungeon
jailer
lord
hasn't given me the key yet, so I'm still waiting for him to arrive. When the jailer arrives with the key, we'll take a plod on down and see who our guest is. I think he got caught for stealing grapes. I think he got caught for living in between two cities. I think he's been put in prison due to the fact that he thought he was Da Vinci and tried to fly. He created a wingspan which was legally too big for the windows, so he couldn't jump out the window. But anyway, I digress.
I just resent there too. Hopefully he's able to join us here shortly.
But if you want, you could talk about your scythe-inspired mat.
Well, let's shift gears. Let's just talk a little bit about our sponsorship with Game Toppers. How we do that.
Yes.
One thing that I mentioned early in the open that we're done with fulfillment now, but one of the things that Game Toppers has been doing is developing a lot of different gaming mats. We have right now 16 styles of 3mm premium stitched edge mats. These are thicker mats than normal, beautiful stitched edge with a lot of beautiful artwork. We just got in a complete new restock, and we have even the 3-foot by 5-foot mats now are in stock. And we have several of the bundles still available from our Kickstarter stretch goals. But in about 2 weeks, we're going to be moving from the Late Pledge Manager software, and we're going to be going to our Shopify store in conjunction with our website. So if you want to take advantage of some awesome deals, join us right now at GameToppersLLC.com. And you can take advantage of all of that. We're also got now what you're seeing is our oh boy, it's like subliminal.
I know, I've got this 80s vibe, like 80s pop video vibe. It's like, buy now, you need to get this product now. It's now or never. And I've just been handed the keys. The jailer's just given me the keys, and we're going to have a quick wander down and see who is behind the door. It is. It's
Welcome,
a call sign.
Sir Jamey Stegmaier.
It's like Batman's call sign. I flashed that, and he arrives.
That was pretty magical, Barry. Well done. Hey, how are you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing
very well.
Thank you for joining us, man.
Can I just check that you're recording your audio first, Jamey?
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because no, I am not. Sorry about that. All right, I am now recording audio. Okay.
No problem. We were just talking about the Scythe-inspired resource mat and a couple of the things that we're doing at Game Toppers as we're done with all of our fulfillment now. And little story is I reached out to Jamey about this here, a little over a year ago. And Jamey, I got to say, and I've told you this personally, but I have so much respect for you and learned so much from you. And it's one of those things that when you have people who respect and admire, but they're not always communicating that, you wouldn't know that. But man, I read almost like every one of your Kickstarter blogs. I bought your audiobook and I listened to it twice.
Oh, wow.
There was
He's got a lot of grass to cut. That's what it is. He puts it on, he cuts the grass. He's got a lot of grass there.
Well, that's true. But I was really so impressed with the way you did so many things, and I was able to glean and learn from many of the lessons that you taught. And so that was invaluable to me. But I also respected you a lot from a designer standpoint, just the games. I love your games. And when it came to us producing a product, and I had this vision for this Scythe-inspired resource mat that's not an official Stonemaier Games product, but it's one that you allowed us to produce and gave us permission to do so, I just said, I got to ask him and see. But I was a little intimidated, honestly. I was like, I don't know if he'd feel good about this or not, and I didn't know what it would cost and all that. But you were so kind and so gracious and said, oh yeah, we'll work out a deal, no problem. And we did so, and we created this art with our artist Jaroslav Radecki from Poland to simulate this environment for your great game, Scythe.
And it turned out absolutely beautiful. Jakob, even the scythe artist, has seen it, and he thinks it's amazing as well. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it is. You put together something really special there. I've seen it in person. You sent me a few copies of it, and yeah, it's stunning. Yeah, thank you for reaching out to me. I love doing that. I love all the interesting things that people have created for our games over the years. And you've seen our agreement. It's kind of like an agreement that says, hey, just don't pretend this is a Stegmaier Games thing, but make awesome stuff for our games and sell them. And we don't ask for any royalties. We just like seeing people create cool stuff. So thanks for doing that.
Oh, well, thank you for allowing and being willing for us to do that. But that speaks volumes about what you're trying to do in the hobby here too. It's all of us working together to create an immersive, fantastic experience for people.
Well said. Yeah, I agree.
Well, we are going to move into our segment here that is called "What Game is Behind the Door" in just a few moments. But I'd like to just give you a little bit of opportunity, Jamey, to give us a little bit of a feedback about Stegmaier Games, about some of the projects maybe you're working on, anything you're excited about, and how people can get a hold of you with that type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I run a company called Stegmaier Games based in St. Louis, Missouri. And we have 10 games now at this point, with our newest game being Pendulum, which came out actually just the retail release was this past Friday. And we have a few other expansions in the works right now. Like we recently released the Tapestry expansion, the latest Tapestry expansion, and we're in the process of announcing the new Wingspan Oceania expansion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah. And so along with those games that we publish, I also love talking about game design on my YouTube channel. And as you mentioned, I have a Kickstarter and crowdfunding and entrepreneurship blog where I just kind of share ideas, observations, mistakes that I've made, things that I've learned with other people, so they can chime into the conversation. I can learn from them. They can hopefully learn something from me. So those are it's kind of a package deal with Stegmaier Games. You get a couple different things there.
Well, it's I've been so impressed with Stegmaier Games and just the production quality of the games you make. I way back when you made those little resin tokens, the treasure chests.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, because I love tricking out my stuff, and when I got a hold of those, I was like so jazzed. I bought a couple of them, and I bought another set and sent them to a podcast friend of mine. I said, "You got to try these things; these are so awesome." And so now I have those. I've subsequently purchased a whole bunch more, and I have separate games that are my favorites that I actually just replace components with them because they're so awesome.
I've done that with Tzolk'in. Tzolk'in is one where I do keep the components in the game. I love Tzolk'in. And I put our little corn tokens in there and things like that. Yeah.
Those are so cool. And you've done that with Scythe too. It was such all the different resource tokens for Scythe, and then your partnerships with other companies too. Even like Meeple Source, where they've made special meeples, and I mean they've done some really cool stuff for you.
Yeah, we have two. I mean, the two that I think of like that are with Top Shelf Gamer. We actually sold our realistic resource line to them, and they handle it. It's their specialty, so they're doing a great job bringing more life to that and letting it last. And Meeple Source mainly sells our promos. Like we don't have the shipping capacity to send like thousands of tiny little packages like they do, but they're really good at it. And as part of that, they make those awesome little custom bird meeples for Wingspan, custom meeples for Scythe. That's separate from us, but I love seeing what they make, and they send me samples every now and then, so I get to enjoy it too.
Yeah, they really do a cool job.
Yeah.
Well, with that, let's move right on into our segment.
Someone in Babblot has been a very naughty person and been thrown into the dungeons of Babblot.
But Berkey and Badger are nice people, and they're going to give them 3 questions to try and worm their way out of their prison sentence in What Game is Behind the Door? Yes, this is the quiz show part where you at home can join in. If you're watching live, you can leave some comments. We won't be able to read them because that'd be cheating for us. We're going to ask Jamey 3 questions. Hopefully he's prepared and ready. And we're going to do them in 3 different types of game show style. So our first question is going to be in a kind of 20 questions, yes or no. But we're not going to do 20 questions because that's a way too long. And our question to Jamey is, what is the last game he purchased? So Berkey and I will ask him a question each, and after, Jamey will grace us with a component, and we'll do this 5 times and see if we can guess the game before those 5 times are up. So
what?
paper and pen.
Ben Lunches is in the chat, and Kabuki Kid, and Rick Ortloff, and Chris. So we've got some folks. I need to turn that off now, don't I?
Yeah, you need to turn that off. Kabuki will probably get the answers. She probably knows Jamey like the back of her hand. She probably knows Jamey's cat's names as well.
Well, what was the last game you purchased? My first question is my standard question. Is it in a Ticket to Ride size box?
No.
No. Okay, no box.
Okay. My standard question is this game a Euro style game? It's in the middle, is it?
It's a little in the middle, but I will say no.
Okay.
I'll lean towards no. Yeah.
So no, so it's probably got some resource management, but
Okay. So now Jamey is going to hold up to the camera one of his components, and we will describe it to you podcast listeners.
It's hard to decide which one here because I really don't want to give it away, but I do
The
have
most vaguest one, yeah.
the most vague. Okay. Oh, this is hard. I'm gonna hold up really close to the camera so I don't give away the size of it. So I'm gonna flash it up here and show you that part of it.
Okay.
So that will.
Okay, it looks like a tile that has a star field in it. Is that
it looks
correct?
more like it looks like a stony kind of ground top down, and it says www.fantasyflightgames.com, which doesn't give too much away, does it?
They have a big line of games, so it shouldn't give too much, but it is an important clue.
Well, let's cross out Star Wars. Let's cross out. Okay. So, any guesses, sire?
I'll just throw out Outer Rim.
It is not. It's a great guess, but no.
Okay. Was it the Journeys to Middle Earth?
I played that fairly recently, but it is not that. No.
Okay.
Okay.
So question number two. Now he's given us a big clue.
Was this game produced in the last 2 years?
Let me check the date on it. Let's see. I'm going to say that the thing that I have on my desk right now was produced and released in the last 2 years. Yes.
Okay. So it's a newer title. Very good.
Okay. Is it got anything to do with Cthulhu?
Yes. Yeah.
Ah, Cthulhu.
Okay, so he's going to hold up a second component.
Okay, and this actually goes along with that clue right now. So this is there you go.
A deck of
Okay,
cards.
so it's a deck of cards. It looks like the Cthulhu tentacles and water, kind of a brown tone.
Okay. Yeah, or Dixit. It's either Dix. I think it's Dixit. That's my guess. Dixit.
It is not Dixit. Although Cthulhu Dixit would be cool.
It would. It'd be very surreal, wouldn't it?
Wow. Now I got to think about. Well, I'll just throw it out. I have a copy of it and haven't gotten to it yet. But is it
every time?
I know. Is it Death May Die from Simon Games?
It is not. It is not. I've heard that highly recommended. I want to play that, but it's not that. No.
Me too.
Yeah.
Jamie Keggy from the Secret Cabal, he was going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over it. He loved it.
Yeah.
All right. I guess number 3 then. Wow. Okay. I had a thought.
There's not many guesses that we can take. It's Fantasy Flight.
Is this primarily a card game?
Yes. It's a great question. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Card
Game. set in the 1920s?
Yes. I think you know it.
Stretch it out. Okay, component number 3.
Okay. This maybe I should have led off with this one because I've emptied this out. This is the entire game box.
It's an expansion.
Wow, interesting clue.
Yeah.
So that's holding a deck of cards, or it's a clear, kind of a hinged, clear holder, and it looks like a retail holders because it has the pegboard slot that could hold a deck of cards or an expansion, I would say.
That's
yeah,
right.
it does look like an expansion for Mansions of Madness.
It's not Mansions of Madness, no.
Let's go there. So I'm going to say an expansion for Arkham Horror, the card game.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Have you played it? I haven't played it yet. Obviously, it's still in shrink.
I have not played it, and I have a buddy that has it that really likes the Arkham Horror, the card game, a lot. And I love Richard Lanius. You know, I don't know, did Richard develop the card game as well?
This is the living card game. It looks like he may have. I don't see him on the credits right here. So, but yeah, he might be involved in the initial design for it. This is the expansion credits go to Nicholas Corey and Matthew Newman. I'm not familiar with them.
Okay. So what made you buy this?
I recently, what did I do? I did a video on the Board Game Geek top like 11 through 20 ranked games on Board Game Geek, my favorite aspects of those games. And I got to Arkham Horror LCG, which I think is 19th on there right now. And I admitted that I had only played the introductory scenario years ago and haven't returned to it. And a bunch of people chimed in and said, Jamey, you got to play this expansion, which is Murder at the Excelsior Hotel. They said they highly recommended it. Okay. And so I trust the people that watch my videos. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. But I haven't played it yet. I need to relearn the game and play it.
Okay. No worries. Yeah, I haven't played it. I've got Mansions of Madness. I've got the original 2nd edition of Arkham Horror, which I still love. And I've also got the dice version as well, which I should play more often because it's a nice, quick kind of filler game.
Yeah.
But, okay. We will wait and find out if Jamey Stegmaier gives it the approval, and I'll possibly put it on my Christmas list because Christmas is coming. Okay.
So part 2.
Right, question number 2 is, what is the game that Jamey is most excited about getting? And he's going to do this with a doodle. He's going to give us a sketch. Well, he's already done the sketch, and he's going to prop it up on the screen.
You ready for me to show it?
Yes, please.
Okay. And I'll just show it for now. I can also give you a kind of a clue about what I can give you a clue if you want it. So this is my sketch.
Okay, so it's looking like it looks like there are 2 twin beds with 2 people on it. It appears that they have halos over their head. It looks like it's a male and a female. I'm not sure. They have long gowns on. I'm trying to describe the picture. That's what it kind of looks like to me.
Yeah, the guy looks like he's got a shoe mission.
They have those cute little bun feet like Calvin and Hobbes, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so they're Angels Sleeping. Is that a title? I mean, I'm thinking of Detective City of Angels, but
that's a good guess.
That's a good guess. Yeah, why don't you guys make an initial guess, and then I'll give you a clue that I think will help just a little bit. I think that's a great guess for it. That's not right, but I think that's
not right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's normal for me.
I'm trying to think of the game that's it has the word life in it. We were together, or
the something life of someone's name. Is that the one that you're thinking of?
No. What, the couples game?
Oh, yeah. Fog of Love?
Fog of Love is what I was thinking of, yeah.
It is not that. So the clue I'll give you a little bit is that A, well, this is not a good drawing, and B, that this is a word clue. This isn't me trying to just draw the game itself. This is a clue, a
Pictionary clue.
A Pictionary clue, yeah, describing the words of the title of the game. It's 2 words.
2 words.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's a word clue. Yeah.
Angels, sleeping city of angels,
Twin
angels.
Twin angels.
Is that twin? One of those words was right. You've said a word that is in the title.
Twin.
Okay. So
not in that phrase, but in the last minute. Last minute you've said it.
Yeah. Hello? No, did I say that in the last?
Angels, hello. How are
Is
you?
it me you're looking for? I can see it in your bed. I can see it in your sketch. Are you trying to describe a board game?
Angels. I think it's angel something.
Where sleeping angels lie. That's 3 words.
Dark angel.
No.
Night angel.
No, angel is not the word.
Angel,
I can see why, because I literally drew 2 angels here. But
twin. So twin. We got to think. This is something he's excited about getting.
Sleeping.
So it's probably a Kickstarter or something.
Mm-hmm.
Twin
Sleeping.
Peaks.
That sounds like a really good game. Sleeping Twin. I want to play Sleeping Twin.
Gosh, I'm stumped.
Surprisingly close there, Barry. Sleeping is one of the words.
Oh, sleeping.
Sleeping angels.
Sleeping.
Couple.
Sleeping giants.
Oh, you're so close. You're so
Sleeping.
2 sleeps.
Sleeping giants. Sleeping.
Cthulhu sleep.
Orcs. Trolls. Sleeping trolls. Sleeping kittens. I don't know.
Sleeping span.
It's sleeping. Oh, should I say it? Can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go on. You've stumped us.
You guys are really close. It's Sleeping Gods by Ryan Lockett.
Oh yeah.
The Near and Far. Yeah. I'm really excited about that. I love Near and Far. So, have you guys played Near and Far?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, sleeping gods is what I was trying to depict here. I know they're angels and not gods, but I didn't know how to draw gods. Yeah.
Well, you did a good job stumping us on that. Ryan Lockett has just such awesome games.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes.
There it is. Because that's coming out not that far from now, right?
I think my Kickstarter, the Kickstarter copy should arrive by the end of 2020. So yeah, pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, he did very well on that. And he had some beautiful artwork. Just beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
Okay, so why are you looking forward to that game then, Jamey?
Well, I love Near and Far. I love the kind of the map books that he creates for this series. And I think he's taken it to the extreme with this book, where like in Near and Far, I think in a single game is you'd open the book to 2 pages and you'd play with those 2 pages. But I think in this game, it might go beyond that. You can go in different directions even within the game. And I'm just
looks like Steven Seagal.
He does look like Steven Seagal.
Wow. Yeah, it does.
There you go. There's the map book. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just excited to play through that. And especially in COVID times, I think campaign games are a little, especially if they play it at 2 players, they're great for Megan and I to play together. So yeah, I'm just excited about that.
Cool. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Question number 3 is.
So we're 1-1 now. We're 1-1. This is for all the marbles. This is whether you get out of the dungeon or not, right here.
Yeah. So the question is, what is the game that Jamey is currently
Do you want me to do it?
You can do it if you want. I'm trying to read from.
What is your current favorite board game? The one that you're playing the most, you dream about, and you take to bed at night and are very excited about.
Yes. So I'm supposed to give you word clues here.
Yes, 5 one-word clues. Give us a little pause so we can guess in between each one.
Okay. The first word clue is a big one. A big clue here: civilization. And just to let you know, I have not picked one of my own games. Absolutely not picked. Tapestry is a civilization game. I would not pick one of my own games. This.
Okay, that's
civilization.
Okay. So I will say Through the Ages.
I actually got to play the new version of that very recently on Board Game Arena. Really enjoyed it, but no, that is not it.
Not it. It's a great game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's been delivered yet. Dominations?
I haven't played that one. I've heard good things, but no, I haven't played that one.
Okay. Word two.
Word two. Hyphenated word. Face off.
Cage or Travolta?
Well, because you're saying face off, it's almost like it's two entities, and I will say Twilight Struggle.
Twilight Struggle. I think. Yeah, that's a great guess. It's not that.
It's not that.
It's a great guess. Yeah.
I will pass for now. That's throwing me face off. I'm thinking of Travolta dancing.
Clue number 3. The clues get kind of weak here. Clue number 3 is the word number.
Number. He really wants to get out of this dungeon.
Yeah.
Number.
Number could be referencing what? There could be a series of them.
That's not very helpful.
What's that Portal game?
Watergate?
No, Portal.
Oh, Watergate. That's another good guess. I love Watergate.
Oh, no, that's Capstone. Yeah, that's Capstone.
There's not Settlers of Catan.
Imperial Settlers.
Imperial Settlers.
Yeah. It's not that.
I love that game.
Okay.
Okay, number 4, I guess.
Word number 4 is science.
Science.
So the clues so far are civilization, face off, number, and science.
Science, number, face off.
I mean, civilization could be a throw off. You think it's a civilization game, but it might be a game about one era, one epoch, or one type of people. Face off science.
This is his favorite board game. So
I'm thinking dinosaurs all of a sudden because we're onto science.
Well, I'm gonna say Pandemic.
Oh, Pandemic. It is not Pandemic. Although I am really excited about Season 0, which I think is shipping soon.
Okay. I was just reading some stuff about and watched Kira and Ryan on Man vs. Meeple doing the Roman version of Pandemic. What's it called? Rise of Rome or something?
Or Rise or Fall of Rome. Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That was kind of interesting. Okay.
Was it the other game where they're building the bomb? No. I'm going to pass.
Pass? Oh, boy. Last one.
I don't think the final clue is going to help you here, but the last word is military.
Military. Come on, Berkey. What's that game where they're building the bomb, the nuclear bomb?
Well, I know the one you might be the one
worker placement one.
Manhattan Project.
Manhattan Project is probably what
Manhattan
you're thinking.
Project. Yeah.
But I'm actually thinking Face Off. I'm going to go with a 2-player version of this if this makes sense, but it just hit me with military. You got the military card, and then you're trying to develop sciences too. I'm not sure how number works, but how about I had it just a second.
You're so close. I think you've got this.
It's got the Pantheon expansion.
And it's on your shelf of shame.
It's the 2-player version of Seven Wonders.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Woo!
Wow.
So
that's one of your favorite games.
Yeah. The last time I did my list, it's Seven Wonders Duel, and I kind of include Seven Wonders in it, but I was specifically referencing the Duel, which you were very close when you went to the Twilight Struggle thought there, and Watergate. Yeah. The last time I made my list, I only counted games that I've actually played in the last 6 months, and a lot of that has been on Board Game Arena.
Sure.
Board Game Arena recently added Seven Wonders Duel, and we play Seven Wonders almost to end every game night that we have on Board Game Arena. So, yeah, I thought I'd pick that one. I'm just continuing to love that game. Those games.
We took that game with my wife and I on our anniversary, actually, and
nice.
It works good to play in small areas. You can even play it at an airport, and all that. So the chat, I just pulled this up here, and it looks like
Kabuki got it about 2 minutes before we did.
It looks like she had sleeping gods.
Oh, nice.
And she's very smart. And then she got Seven Wonders Duel. Yeah, there you go.
I thought you were going to get it after Face Off. You were very close there. And then the clue number, is referring to the number in the name of the game, but the clue could take you away from that.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It kind of did.
Yeah.
Well,
that was fun.
Yeah, that's super fun. Well, thank you. We did take care of our prisoner quite well with 2-1, but we'll probably let him escape the jungle because the dungeon he's he's been a good sport.
Not until he's redesigned viticulture and made it to champagne culture.
Aha! The Epernay version.
The Epernay version, and then he can go free, I think.
Well, we're going to move on to our Babble topic. We really appreciate your time, Jamey, and I know you got a lot of stuff going on, so we'll just kind of keep moving along with this. But Barry, let's move on to the Babble topic.
And now it's time for the Babble, 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 Berkey and Badger's board game Babble.
I always say, never give two monkeys a podcast.
Look at the size of my ears. They're not as big as Jamie's, but...
Well, I think this is a super great topic. When we were chatting, when Badger and I were chatting about what to talk about, immediately when this idea came up, I thought of Jamey Stegmaier. I thought, first off, he's a seasoned publisher. He's a seasoned gamer and board game designer, and his thoughts might really be relevant about the topic because I think there's a lot of different definitions of what we could call classic games. And classic games, Badger and I do a show every other week or so called The Woods of Evergreen. And this is where we go back into these games of yesteryear and find out ones that we feel still stand the test of time. Not necessarily classics, but many of them may or may not be classics. So I think we have to kind of figure out as we're moved up to year 2018. It was like, gosh, I don't know if we can categorize these as classics because they're so new.
Yeah.
And yet there's a prolific nature of some of them that maybe they become instant classics almost. Anyway, Jamey, how would you consider, what would you define as a classic game?
There are a couple different ways that we could look at it. It sounds like you have to a certain extent, or we could look at like ancient classics that like games like chess.
Yeah.
We could look at the definition that I'm going to use for this is classics, somewhat related to my lifetime, which I think this is where it could vary a lot from person to person based on their age. I was born in 1981. I started playing games in the 80s and early 90s, and so that is what I perceived for me personally as a classic game. So I think it's somewhat subjective there. And there are modern classics and then instant classics. So I like all the different definitions. For the purpose of the thing that we'll mention at the end of this chat, I'm going to go with classics related to when I started playing games that I would still gladly play from that era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you feel about that, Badger? What are your thoughts about what it makes up a classic game?
I think the definition of classic is different in different areas. It's like when you talk about music, anything 60 years before would be deemed as classic. So you classic jazz, classical music, obviously. Whereas board games, I think, is a bit shorter kind of window. So probably 10 to 20 years, and anything there is a classic. But again, as Jamey said, you could do different categories. Classic is in chess. Classic is in your childhood. I know that in my childhood, an expression we would use is "that's classic." Mm-hmm. As soon as someone says, what's so and so put tacks on the teacher's chair and she sat on them and yelled, and that's classic. It's a classic blag. But again, it could be just generational classic because the cartoons that we watched as kids are classic now to our kids because they're not as good. I don't know. But, it's a really, really hard one to judge by, but I would say anything before I was born is classic. So my mum is classic. You're a classic mum. Thank you for being there.
Excuse me. Yeah, I wrote a question down. I put a couple of definitions, if you will, or categories of why or what we might consider classic. Does it have to do with sales of a particular game? Does it need to be an age? Kind of mentioned you wanted in your, basically in your lifetime. The quality of the actual game, the designer that has high prolific nature, or the game mechanisms, or possibly just the name recognition. Does that define it as a classic game? Or does that criteria less important, and it's just these are games that we think stand the test of time, have a lot of notoriety?
I like the way you said that they stand the test of time. I think that's got to be part of it. Almost an ageless nature to them, that they were great when they came out, and they are still great today, and they'll probably still be great and enjoyed 10, 15 years from now. I don't necessarily think that they need to be bestsellers, but at least maybe still accessible to people. People can still play them or still have fun playing them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was kind of wondering about, that name recognition and the popular mass big box store games, of course, like Monopoly, Sorry, The Game of Life. I mean, these are all Risk. These are all games that are so prolific in our culture. Most everybody would recognize them, but we don't necessarily recognize them as great games. And so I wouldn't consider them classic, even though they kind of are.
Yeah.
It's an interesting word, right?
Yeah.
I'm more leaning towards game mechanisms because it's just gone from my head. I had it there. The game mechanisms, a classic, simple game mechanism like a trick-taking game makes any game a classic because it's easy to grasp, and it becomes popular in that kind of spirit. But the fact that people can just pick it up and play and recognize it. Time's Up is another one. It feels like a classic game. It's not. Time's Up is what? 10 years old, 12, 15 years old. But when you play it for the first time, it's like, I've played this before. Because it seems like games that you've played before. And so for me, that kind of has this classic feel. Because it's a word game, and you're not just trying to guess words from clues, you're also doing Mime, which is another game that you played at school when you were a kid. So it's like, it has that air of classic, even though it's not a classic. It's not old enough to be deemed a classic. So for me, as I said, I lean more towards the game mechanism. If the game mechanism feels like something old, tried, tested, that, it has been integrated into my life already, then yeah, it'll feel like a classic.
Yeah, I was struggling a little bit because for some reason, classic always means age.
Yeah.
It means a 57 Chevy. Yeah. It means a Beatles song. That these
the
are things
are not
that
classic. They're just the Beatles.
They're just
you can't
the
say
Beatles.
Classic. You can't say classic. You can't say classic Beatles. You can't even say classic rock and roll anymore because it's still not classic music. It's classic jazz. Yeah.
And that's kind of the fun about this topic. It's pretty subjective. I mean, we're all going to have a idea of what the definition is. I defined the classic games that it's something that's just a really great game, and that if it's newer but has had a lot of exposure in the hobby, so it was like extremely well known, maybe by a noted designer, noted publisher, has sold extremely well, and is generally accepted as a high quality game. Not everybody loves every game, of course, but there are certain games that have extremely high ratings, and most folks agree that, hey, we know this is a good game. And so that was kind of how I broke it out. But I kind of delineated slightly, and I don't know if this is cheating a little bit through our format, but I did put some classic older games and modern games in my little list because it was hard. I was having a hard time with this one.
And there's some games like Ticket to Ride was one that I would say is a modern classic, and it feels like it's been around for a long time, and it has. I think I have it on my sticky note here. 2004 was when it came out, which was a while ago. That was 16 years ago. But I delineated by my childhood. I looked at my childhood, games that I played in my childhood that I would still gladly play today, which is highly relative and subjective.
Yeah, that's good. So Barry, what definition did you use to pick your games?
Games that were made before I was born, which rules out Dungeons and Dragons because that's 74 and I was 73.
So close.
So close. You were so close.
Well, let's do this. And as we close up this segment, we've kind of talked about what makes a game classic and what our opinion is on that anyway. And then we're going to talk about some of the 3 of the games each that we feel are in that category. I think I'm probably actually leaning a little bit more towards modern classic, but all right. So we'll start with Barry, with Jamey first.
Okay. One of mine, I should have had it up to hold up here, but one of mine is Scotland Yard. Scotland Yard is a game that I played as a kid, probably around when I was 10 or 11. It came out in 1983, so I probably played it when I was in elementary school, maybe middle school. And I picked up when my parents were moving their houses a couple of years ago. I picked up my childhood copy. I hadn't played it in 20 years, probably. Brought it back to my game night and found that I enjoyed it just as much as I had 20 years ago. And I still play it. It's one of my favorite games. It's so smooth, so great. Have you guys played Scotland Yard?
I haven't played it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, who's the publisher?
Oh yeah, there are new versions of it. I don't actually know the publisher. I think maybe Ravensburger was maybe the original one.
Okay.
But it is a very simple hidden movement game. There have been many other hidden movement games that have been inspired by it. I'm guessing that's maybe the origination of it, but it's streamlined.
Letters from Whitechapel is very, very, very close to it. So
right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Barry, why don't you give one?
Well, one of my favorite ones is still, well, it's not still played, but it's played in another format, which is King of Tokyo. So I'm going to say Yahtzee.
Yahtzee,
yeah. Yahtzee is just a dice game. And I mean, dice games go way back to the Romans. So for me, that's a classic game because it's even older than old itself, the word old. Yeah. So it's just a simple push your luck game with dice. And I still play it, but as I said, King of Tokyo style.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Trying to make families.
I'm a little bit older than you, Jamey. I was born in 1965, so you can do the math. Okay. I actually graduated high school in 83, so you were just 2 years old. But when I was in high school was really when gaming was really important to us. We played a lot of the big box game stores, but we played some of the war games that were available at that time. And back in the day, they were the little cardboard chits with numbers on them and things like that. Played Trenchfoot and all these different games. But the one I'm going to say that's classic that I think is still standing the test of time was the big box series from Milton Bradley, Axis and Allies. Mm-hmm. And we played the mess out of Axis and Allies. And then when the first expansion came out for it, I forget which one it was even right now, but we would set these games up on our table, and sometimes they would be up for a week that we'd be playing these enormous games of Axis and Allies, when we'd get off of work and things like that, and played it. And I remember when the first version of Axis and Allies came out for a 386 computer. Mm-hmm. And so we had a digital version when I was in computers, and that was like, oh, And now look at all the things that have happened with Accents and Allies over the years. And it, in my opinion, it's very classic, still holds up. And I know it's a little bit luck driven and those kind of things with dice, but it's still a classic to me.
When's the last time you played it?
Oh gosh, it's probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe now.
But still somewhat recently, I guess.
Yeah, we played it with my son, a couple of friends of his, but we've got that whole lineup of games, Conquest of the Empire, Shogun with the samurai swords, that you picked. And we played that one just not that long ago, actually. And so they were all kind of in that. And Fortress America, they were all in that playing them all the time. Cool. So why don't you give us our second one there, Jamey?
Second one, I'm moving forward in time to 1986 with the game Labyrinth. Oh. You guys familiar with the game Labyrinth? It's
again Ravensburger.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's essentially a tile pushing game where you have a board, a bunch of tiles on it in rows and columns, and on your turn, all you are doing is taking a tile and pushing it into the labyrinth to change the formation of this maze in the middle of the table, and then moving a piece as far as possible to pick up some things on the table. It's another game that I played as a child that I really, really loved, and I recently replayed it as an adult, and I was like, wow, this is such a brilliant mechanism that someone came up with so long ago. And there have been new versions of it, like Scotland Yard. I played whatever the newest version of it is. I'm forgetting the name offhand right now, but it does level it up a little bit in an interesting way. But that classic mechanism of pushing the tile in there and it changing the shape of the game board as you do so, just a really cool mechanism that I think holds up to today.
Yeah, that mechanism is reminding me of a game that I've still got on my shelf, an old game from Parker Games, which is the same thing, but it's balls. It's called Push, and I'm trying to find out what year it was.
Okay.
It's basically a one-on-one. You've got a grid of black and yellow balls, and they're spaced out differently, and then you just got to try and make a block of 3x3 balls of your color by sliding the balls.
Okay.
That could have been on my list if it was old enough. I shouldn't look. But anyway, yeah, good choice, Labyrinth. I've played it a couple of times and really impressed by that.
Wow, I haven't played that one.
77 Push. It doesn't make my list. It doesn't make my list. Bit like Connect 4. Connect 4 was so close to making my list.
Yeah.
But it came out in 1974. So I've had to go for generic card games, particularly trick-taking games.
Kabuki Kid brought up a point about Axis and Allies Anniversary has replaced classic Axis and Allies for her.
And Stratego, she mentions here. Yeah, Stratego. That's a great pick. That's a great pick. Yeah. I want to change my answer now because that fits exactly the classic description that I've said here today.
There you go. Yeah, we played the mess out of that too.
Yeah. So card games in general, I could just say Uno, which is 71. Just a simple, fun, take that kind of game, which still on my shelf. I still play it. You can't get any more classic than Uno. Simple rules. House rules are best, obviously. Yes, you can put a +4 on top of a +4. You got to pick up 8. But, and that makes it a classic.
Is there a more modern game that uses, I'm sure there is, where you're just trying to get everything out of your hand, like get rid of everything?
Well, like Tichu or Chimera.
Yeah.
You're getting rid of sets.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of Kickstarters that use that kind of mechanism just as a card game as well.
Yeah.
There was a super fun game Mike Fitzgerald taught me called Team Play.
Team Play?
Yeah, it was a super fun little game. You have 3 different objectives in the middle, and you're playing with your partners, and you can play up to 4 to 6 players, sets of partners, and you're trying to help each other get rid of your hand together by getting these center objectives. And that was a super fun. He learned about the game at the Gathering of Friends, and then he taught it to me at Dice Tower Con a few years ago, and that's a really fun, that type of game. Cool.
Yeah, the Great Dalmuti is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's a classic game because that's not really because it came out in '95 as the Great Damuti, but it's an older traditional card game which came up from the 1800s, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, that's another game where you just got to get rid of your cards. But,
Yeah.
I digress.
All right. Well, my second one. This is gonna put it a little bit. Your definitions and mine are my definitions are leaning a little more modern. But mine was
say Wingspan. I bet you said Wingspan.
One of our favorite games. We love that game. That was definitely my vote for game of the year because I paint wildlife and I mostly do pheasants and ducks and so I was super enthused with the artwork and the flavor. I just loved it, and I've played it many times with my family. So I love Wingspan, but that feels really new. And even though it's had really a lot of success, a great game, it felt too new for me to call it classic.
Yeah, came out a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And it's still growing. It's awesome. But the game that I was thinking about was the Settlers of Catan. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, Klaus Tuber, what we refer to as the Renaissance of gaming in that 2000, 2005 era, where these games were coming out in Germany and proliferating the world market. And Settlers of Catan, and all of its variations just started really taking over. And then you saw it in large, big box stores. And, I recognize now it's not the game that I really want to play that much, but I still do play it, at times with friends. We just played Catan Germany with my family, and that's my favorite version of it. The Germania, it's called Histories, Catan Histories. Yeah. And I love that version, but classic design. It brought in some of those mechanisms of resource management. I didn't really remember collecting wood and sheep and trading and doing all of that kind of thing. And so I think that brought something into the hobby that a lot of people started to play off, and to me is a classic.
It was released in 1995 originally, I think.
Oh, 95.
I think it was 85 or 95. I just looked it up and now I'm forgetting it now. But Catan was 95. Yeah. So I don't think it was available in the US right away, but that's a pretty old game at this point. Yeah. And great class. My final pick is close to that year. This is one I'm curious to see what happens if people are still playing in 10 years or not. But this was Magic the Gathering, which came out in 1993. And
good choice.
Yeah. So that one definitely has withheld the test of time so far. It feels very different than a lot of these other games that we mentioned. Scotland Yard and Labyrinth are very simple. Uno, King of Tokyo, at their heart, Access Allies is more complicated. But yeah, Magic the Gathering, that's one that I love seeing what Wizards of the Coast has done with that game, the stories they've told, the cards they've designed. I still learn from it as a designer, and I still draft on occasion after the pandemic will be over. I'll get back to drafting with friends from time to time. But yeah, that's one that I loved as a kid. I still love as an adult.
Oh yeah, and it's still going strong. I mean, yeah, that's a great guess or great selection. I mean,
although Stratego, really, that is a great pick. And from Kabuki Kid, I think that would have fit my description even better than Magic. I'll have to look up the year that came out.
Yeah. All right, Sir Badger.
Okay, I'm going to change mine last minute because Kabuki has just mentioned Mahjong. And I'm thinking, I like playing the Dragon Castle, which is Mahjong. And I've just looked it up. Mahjong Solo was invented in 1895, which makes it older than me, which then fits into my category. And then I can say bye-bye chess, because I admire chess, but I don't like playing it. So, but I do like playing Mahjong Solo, as we all do now. So I'm going to say Mahjong, because it's just a simple kind of puzzle where you're removing tiles. I mean, you could say Jenga, but again, that's 1980 something. But anyway, it's just a simple puzzle of removing two tiles of the same thing on the edge, to try and remove all from the board. It's just a simple kind of visual. I was going to say dexterity, but it's kind of dexterity because you don't knock the other tiles when you're taking the other tiles. But it's just a simple visual puzzle, which has given me hours of pleasure and still does. And that's why I'm going to call it a classic. That's why Dragon Castle is a classic. Although it's only like 4 years old.
I like the link between the two, though. The really old game and the new game that uses a very similar mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And it's a game that I still play or still would play. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Played that on the computer forever, too, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm still a little bit more in the modern era here, but the one that I picked was...
Baseball highlights.
I love baseball highlights, of course. Alex and I would play that all the time. The game that I'm going to pick is the reason it's classic to me is because it was one of the first to use this mechanism that became so prolific in gaming. And there's been so many iterations of this. I've recently played it a few times again, and we just had a blast. There was, I know there's other better versions of it now and whatnot, but we still loved it. And it's a Dominion.
Okay.
And I don't know when the first Dominion, I didn't look it up when the first one came.
95, I think, the first Dominion.
And there's been so many iterations of it, and then so many game designs have taken that deck. How much or what?
2008. Sorry, 95 was Catan.
Oh, it was only 8, huh?
Yeah.
2008. So that's pretty recent, more recent than I thought. But I should have looked that up. But the mechanism of deck building has been moved into so many games, and it's still such a fun, simple game to get out. And I think it still stands up, and everybody knows about it in the hobby, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, like you said, it feels even much older than it is because it's had such a huge influence on so many different designs. I think that's a great pick. We actually just picked up, we picked up Megan's old copies of it and picked up her old copy of Ascension, which was kind of the first deck building game to use the card row. We played it the other day, and it's still really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, they're
mechanisms. It's the mechanisms. That
not mechanics. Not mechanics. Well, this is we've been talking about classic games, and we'll put up a poll of some type of definitions of what you think makes a classic game, and we'll put up some in our Board Game Geek poll that we talked about this morning. It's Board Game Geek Guild 2248, and y'all can jump in and tell us what you think makes up a classic game, and maybe some of your picks. We'll have a spot in there where people can put in. Well, I'll let Barry take care of the poll.
Yes, sir.
Well, Jamey, again, thanks so much for coming on the show. Again, lots of love to everything that you've done for the hobby and what you've meant to me personally, but also to so many. I just have a great deal of respect for your company, yourself personally, and just wish you all the best. Let people know just one more time where they can get a hold of you or where they can find your products.
Sure. Yeah. And thank you for saying that. And thank you for having me today. This was a lot of fun. I would say the best way to find me is on stillmeiergames.com. That links to the blog, the YouTube channel, our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. So stillmeiergames.com is the hub for all of our content.
And you do a Facebook vlog. Is it just once a week, or are you doing that more than that?
Yeah, kind of like what you guys are doing this live. I do a Facebook Live every Wednesday at 10 o'clock Central Time, St. Louis time. And then I put it on YouTube right afterward for people who aren't able to join live.
Yeah, I love you when you do that. Every now and then I'm doing something in the office and I'll see a notification and I'll get to watch it for a few seconds. My daytime time is so limited nowadays, but it's always fun to listen to all the whatever people were asking. I mean, they asked me the strangest questions, and you just are able to shoot from the hip and let her go.
Yeah, I love questions. I'm an introvert, so I like when people ask me questions and I can just respond. So, I have a lot of fun with this.
It's going to be fun when we're able to get. I know you don't do a ton of conventions, and it's not your greatest love, but I can't wait till we get back to a convention. We can get together and we go out and get to talk with one another again.
Absolutely, yeah. Geekway to the West is the one in St. Louis that I love. And you mentioned Alex earlier. Alex now lives in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So you can come join us and play. We can play baseball highlights with you here.
That'd be great. We'll set up a little tournament. We have a little rivalry going on between him and Dan King and Philip Millman and
Nice.
Derek Funkhauser every now and then gets in on it. And I love that game. Well, Barry, do you want to send us out? And
no problems. You can find us on Berkey's site, boardgametheatre.com. You can find us on my site, boardgameseverybodyshould.com. And as he said, Board Game Geek Guild 2248, as well as Libsyn. This podcast will be streamed through there, and you can also download it iTunes and all that stuff. So, thanks for watching. Thank you, Jamie. And goodbye. Where's the goodbye button? There it is.
we're so glad we had this time together. Now it's time to go. It won't be long until we have another show. So keep us in mind, get online. Berkey and Badger will be back in no time.